great competition. We're certainly not done, whether that remains in free agency over the next, couple weeks, or whether that's through the draft. We really wanted to attack the front, on both sides of the line of scrimmage. I'm really excited about what we did on the defensive side of the ball up front. Getting guys like Solomon Thomas, Peyton Turner, to get Dante to come back. Those are guys that give us an edge to play on the edge. The more I learned about Solomon, I met him a couple years ago at Dak's event. His story's incredible. His leadership skills are incredible. And so we're excited to bring him into the mix. Peyton Turner's a guy that I remember coming out of school, Houston Long. And then, of course, we all know Dante. Playing against Dante last year, it was like, damn, he's really good. And so, and then, again, on the other side, Robert Jones was a guy that we were really excited about. We watched it, but really about creating competition starting on the fronts. The game is played in the trenches. It really is. And it doesn't matter if that's the first play, the last play, whatever it is, but it's always played up there at some point, whether it's trying to stop the run or having to hold up in pass protection when you're playing in a 2-minute drive. So I think we've done a nice job with that to start.
When you got here, did you ever come to these things when your dad was a coach, and when you get here, and was there any kind of aha moment at all for you?
Yeah, I think I shared with some of my buddies. I actually told Roger yesterday. I was walking down the first night going to dinner, and with my wife and a couple of the other coaches, and this is the best time of year. You get together with people you care about, that you respect, but that you compete against. And so we're walking down the long hall coming from our room heading to dinner, and I had an aha moment to back me being a 12, 13, 14-year-old kid with my mom and dad and my sister going to dinner. And it was literally in that hallway, and it's just you look back and it just kind of reminds you of how fast the journey goes. And we're obviously thrilled to be here, humbled and honored to be in this position as head coach of the Cowboys. And but that was a cool moment for me.
Has it hit you yet, being a Cowboys coach? What have the last couple of months been like?
Very busy. I think it has. It still comes and goes. There's so much work to be done that you really don't have a whole lot of time to think about it. It's more when you stop. My wife and I have had a few quiet moments away from the office where you kind of sit down, you're having a cup of coffee, and you're checking in on all things family. Hey, what are the kids doing? What's going on? How's life? And then you do have moments like, damn, this is pretty amazing. This is pretty cool to sit in this chair with this incredible organization with this much of a history. It's something that I don't take for granted at all, and I'm excited about, and really looking forward to not just the challenge of it, but building it with our coaches and with our players, because that's what this business is about. Getting a group of people together with a common goal, working every day to do it. Every day's not going to go great, and that's the way I'm wired. I love to work.
When you look at how this whole NFC East shakes out, you've obviously been in the division. What do you think that you guys have to do to be able to compete in this division to win the division?
Well, again, I think number one, it's an incredibly difficult division. Addressing the front seven on both sides of the ball is something that we've wanted to do. Again, one of the mantras of our program is going to be you got to own the line of scrimmage. And so whether it's Philadelphia, Washington, the Giants, they all have good fronts. And so from an offensive perspective, you got to be able to do that. From a defensive perspective, you have to be able to pressure the quarterback. But it's going to be really a fun division to watch, but one that we feel very comfortable in our ability to go and win.
That being said, do you feel with what you've done in free agency and in both fronts that you can concentrate some of your draft capital on some playmakers on the offensive line, maybe a corner on the back end, or do you feel what you've done in free agency allows you to pursue that a little bit more in this draft now, and will you?
Yeah, great question. When we went into free agency, the thought was let's get into the draft where we can take the best player available. In my opinion, that's the best way to go, and I think talking to Steven and Jerry and Will, like by making some of the moves that we've made, we feel like we're not done. We still have things that we want to do, but like when you get into the draft and you're sitting there at those certain spots, the scouts have done an incredible job. I've said it to them. I say it to you guys. The scouts and the personnel guys, they're the experts. They do this 365 days a year. It's our job as a coaching staff to present to them, here's what we want, here's what we're looking for, and then the conversations at the combine were incredible. We had some really just awesome give and take about positions and the way you define a 3 technique or the way you define an offensive lineman or a tight end. But yeah, I feel like we go into this draft with a lot of confidence. Again, we're not done in free agency. We're always looking to acquire. We're always looking to compete in the personnel side of it. But I do feel like we've set ourselves up to go into the draft where, hey, we're sitting in certain spots. That's the guy's best player available. Let's take it.
Brian, what's the challenge as a first-year head coach and play caller?
Probably just, using your time wisely, making sure you spend enough time touching all the departments. That's been something I've spent quite a bit of time on early on. The good news for me is the offensive side of it is going to have some changes, but not as many as most first-time head coaches. And the benefit for me, again, quite honestly, Todd, is, having been here, I know all the pieces. So like talking to some of the other first-time head coaches, right? If they need to get something done from a contractual standpoint, they're learning the names, right? If they have to get something done with travel, they're learning, okay, who do I go to? I know all those people. So that's good. But, just the constant communication with Flus and Nick and those guys. And, hey, how's it going on the defensive meetings? We have conversations, every day. But it becomes a lot. And as you get into the draft, your focus, you have to put things into buckets. And so the bucket that's coming up very quickly is going to be the draft. Our players are coming back. I can't wait to get them back in the building. Again, this is not for people that don't know how to manage their time. If you don't know how to manage your time, this is not a good profession to be in.
What do you want your offensive identity to be?
Physical. Again, I talked a little bit in the opening press conference about, the marriage between the run game and the action passes. But, as a football team, as an offense, we want to be physical. My MO has always been to run the football. I really believe that the game, like I said, is up front. Led the league twice, the coordinator, proud of that. I think getting a guy like Clayton Adams really helps us as the coordinator. His knowledge, I've been tracking him for a couple years now. He's an incredible mind when it comes to not just the run game, but just how to attack defenses and how to get favorable leverage and things like that. But physical is the first thing that kind of jumps out at me.
When you look at this draft class, how familiar are you with it? How much have you caught up? And where do you feel like the depth is in terms of where you can build?
Yeah, it's a great question. We start our draft meetings here next week or so. I will say I'm getting caught up. I think the latter part of last week, I was at a couple pro days and just time spent with Mitch, time spent with Will. Some of the scouts has been incredible. Again, these guys are the experts. I'm leaning on them. I think there's a lot of depth on the defensive line, both interior and on the edge. I think that there's a lot of depth, obviously, with the running back position. You start going through the film, which I'm through most of the POA tapes. You try to do that before you get into the draft process. And there's guys at every level with every different grade on them that you're like, the difference is not that huge. It's like, okay, this guy's got what grade, this guy's got that grade, but there's all things that you see that you love. Contact balance with this guy, change of direction with this guy, maybe a little bit more speed with that guy. But I'm not where I need to be today, but I will be. And I think I'm a lot farther along now than I was probably 3 or 4 weeks ago.
How do you weigh? You've been in positions before going into the draft where as a coordinator you would argue, well, this is what we need here, and it's always strictly just from your perspective. Now you have the defense to think about, but also you mentioned like depth at running back. How vocal will you be saying, okay, this guy is good, but we have a lot of depth there, and this is this position over here is more of what is needed. How do you envision handling all of that your first time?
Well, it's actually funny because I told Flus the other day, I said, damn, you look at free agency, you'd think I'm a defensive head coach. You look at what we did. I got Clayton Adams looking at me going, hey, man, I thought you were an offensive coach. But, look, at the end of the day, we got to build the most competitive roster we can build. And again, the cool thing about this time of year, the teams that do it really, really well, which I think we're one of those teams doing it really, really well, is that it's 2 parts. right? It's free agency. You do free agency first. You compare, okay, what's the safety depth in free agency compared to the draft? What's the defensive line look like in the draft? And then you obviously look at your holes in the areas that you want to improve. But I will say there's a couple times that I sat with Steven and Jerry and Will, and we were making some decisions in free agency, and I literally had to say, well, we need to go with this guy. And he was on the defensive side of the ball. But that's what's best for the football team. And at the end of the day, what matters is putting together the best football team that we can put together and winning football games.
Getting back to offense, to a certain extent, the need for number 2 receiver behind the senior level. You talk about that, getting that more juice in the passing game.
Yeah. Again, CeeDee's an incredible player. Always looking to add depth at that room. Again, really proud of Jalen Tolbert. I've talked about him from the time we started talking about it 2 years ago when he was improving to now we talk about him as the leading receiver, touchdown-wise on our team. Along with finding guys and adding more pieces, it's our job as a staff to be a developmental staff, right? We need to get these guys like Ryan Flournoy, Mingo to take the next step. We have to do that. Like, that's our job. And so one of the things that we're working on right now is an improvement plan for each guy, okay? And all right, so let's use Mingo, for example. These are the 2 or 3 things that, okay, hey, for Mingo to get to where we want him to go, he does these 3 things. It's not just those 3 things, it's what are the steps, the action plan to do those 3 things. And so that's what we're looking at now with our current players, because as you know, they come back here in 2 weeks. And so between developing those guys on the roster and always looking under every corner to add some speed and some more playmaking skills, we're always looking to do that.
Where's Dak in his rehab, and how important is he to your run game?
His rehab looks great. You know, just looking at him, talking at him. You guys have seen all the videos of those guys working. He looks great. I got to ask him about the new 1 sleeve look he's got going. I saw he had the 1 sleeve cut and 1 sleeve off. But, you know, at the end of the day in the run game, Dak does a lot. Most quarterbacks do a lot. And it's not just carrying the football or things like that. It's you package plays together, right? Every coach at this table, they've got plays that are good versus certain fronts or certain coverages, and so you package them together, whether you call them cans, kills, whatever it is. And so you put a lot on quarterbacks, and that's the benefit of having a veteran like Dak. He can handle a lot of it.
He needs to be mobile, though. I mean, things that he was early in his career to really make Clayton's run game go. I know his success has been with a mobile quarterback.
Well, it's funny when you talk to Clayton, he said the thing about Kyler is Kyler never really wanted to run. He was really good, but he said he'd go into certain games, he'd be like, man, I really don't want to, I'm not feeling running this week, you know. But Dak's ability to create, not just in the running game, but again, playing above the 2.3. They were saying a stat the other day that was really interesting, like quarterback scrambles are up. I don't know the percentage, I don't remember, but that's where the game's going. Why is the game going that way? Well, these defensive lines are freaking incredibly talented, you know, and they're deep. Most teams now have 4, 5, 6 first rounders on their front 7, so the pass rush has become really, really good. So I would say that's the bigger part of it, not just Clayton's run game, but the ability to extend plays, and then when things break down, pull it down and make you 6, 8, 10 yards.
Hey, Brian, wanted to ask you about the signing of Javonte Williams, and what are you looking for him to bring to your squad?
Yeah, really excited about Javonte. A guy we really like coming out of North Carolina. I love his short area quickness. I love the power he runs with. And again, you look at him and you talk to him, you know, the hunger that he has coming back off the injury. And you know, some of the best players I've ever been around are guys that have chips on their shoulders. And Javonte's one of those guys that he's hungry. And we're always looking for guys that have that. So again, we feel really good about his ability just to run the football. For a guy that's maybe not as tall as other backs, his pass protection's really good. He'll strike you, he'll hit. And again, we feel really good about that addition.
When you studied him, kind of how did you see maybe the effect the injury had on him over the course of his 4 years?
Hard to answer, really not watching him every day before the injury. I didn't really see anything that said that, the injury was an issue. Usually it does take guys a little bit of time coming off the ACL, but I can't compare that. I just know the film that we saw that he played, really good snaps, some really good suddenness in and out of holes and accelerating into open areas. So again, I think we've really feel good about it.
You've talked about building a strong culture and how you like to be around the building and that. And Osa shared in an interview how you found out what restaurant he was going to be at, sent him a bottle of champagne. Why is doing all of that stuff important to you?
Because it's what matters. I mean, hey, let's be honest. Like, this is all really fun and cool, and look at all the cameras and everything. But like, let's be honest. There's going to be some days. Like, this is a National Football League. Like, it's going to be tough. And so, if you preach you're a family, and if you preach that, you know, hey, I love you, I care about you, like, then why wouldn't you take steps to get to know people? And, you know, I know my wife and I, we're really excited. The Jones family is all about family. You know, I grew up in a football family, so I want our players, our coaches, our players' wives, our players' kids to feel a part of something bigger than just, oh, okay, that's where Dad works. No, I want them to know me. I want them to know my family, because I think that that's important. So a little step like me finding out Osa, who is one of the best, you know, young men, he's worked his ass off to get where he is. And so to do a little thing like that, to me, is just common sense, you know, and because I do love him and I do care about him, just like I do all the guys. I mean, half of my day is spent reaching out to our players and trying to talk to them on the phone to just check in about life. And I don't want to talk to these guys right now about football. The biggest mistake people make, and I'm guilty of it, looking back, is you think, oh, I got to get all the football in. I got to get those plays in. That's a great route combination. It's overrated, man. It's overrated. It's a people business. And so we want to spend time getting to know one another and building this culture, which is going to be about competing every day to make these guys the best version of themselves, not just as a football player, as a husband, as a father, as a Christian, whatever it is, as a musician, if that's what they want. So it is important to me, and I appreciate you asking me that.
What's your confidence level in getting the deal done with Michael, so he'll be around for OTAs and minicamp and not miss anything at all?
Yeah, you guys know. I mean, hey, look, at the end of the day, this business, and when you're dealing with, you know, the money that's being tossed around, not just with Micah, but with the big name players, negotiations sometimes take time. I feel very comfortable. Micah said he's going to be around. I think that's what he wants to be. I think we're all very comfortable with that. And at the end of the day, he's a great player, and you know, we think you know, he's just getting started, to be honest with you. So I have no question in my mind that he'll be around.
I'm sure you've been asked this before, but Sirianni just said he's talked to a few coaches about the whole tush push. Where do you fall on that?
They're really good at it. You know, at the end of the day, it was fascinating for me listening to some of the meetings and conversations, and the arguments about player safety and all that stuff is interesting. Again, I really don't. If it stays, it stays, and we all have to figure out a way to stop it. It's maybe not the most beautiful play I've ever seen. I don't watch much rugby, but it looks a lot like that. But we'll see what everybody decides.
With the free agency out of the name and former first rounders like Javonte coming off an injury, is there a common denominator amongst them where you look at him and you're like, you know, we feel like we can get X out of this guy that maybe he hasn't in his career?
Yeah, I don't even think it's that. I think, you know, what it speaks to is the fact that we obviously have a lot of knowledge that these guys have traits, right? And then when guys have traits or skill sets, use Paris Campbell, for example, right? Again, a guy with speed, a guy that, again, had flashes. But there's also the cool thing when you're in year one of a program. Think about this. When you're in year one, we've got coaches from Arizona, we got coaches from San Francisco, coaches from Chicago, coaches from all these different places. So you got to remember, we've all been exposed to different people. So Clayton Adams has been exposed to Paris Campbell. So again, when you have guys that have traits, and then you have coaches, which in year one of a program, when you bring in all these guys and you start building something, they've got the ability to speak to, oh, this is our type of guy. This guy's a competitor. This guy gets it. This guy wants to do things the right way. This guy's going to work. All those things factor into it. So it's not just the talent and the traits. We obviously look at those but that's part of the measurement. But then again, it puts it on us saying, okay, if we are a developmental staff, which we are, then it's our job to bring that out of them. Doing what? Working on fundamentals every day, going through the practice process, individual. You know, you guys have been around the off-season program. There's a ton of individual time. You're developing their skills, right? It's not all scheme. There's a lot of skill work. So that's kind of where all that factored together. But it wasn't just the first-round picks. It was getting to know the guys. White Cotton knows Solomon Thomas, right? Like that's all part of the puzzle. We know the guys that we re-signed, right? Like you talk about certain players you're bringing back. You're like, whether it's Banger or whatever it is, you're like, yeah, that's the right type of guy. So it's really a cool process when you look at it.
The backup quarterback spot, I know you said there's kind of a desire to get younger behind Dak, but would a veteran still be on the table, a veteran option in free agency?
Yeah, I think so. We're open to anything. Again, we're always looking to compete. I will say this: Will Greer looks great. He's been around the building. I just love talking ball with Will. Will knows the system. I have a bunch of love for Will just because, again, he's been on this journey. He gets it. But we're always looking. I mean, we're always watching it. Again, that doesn't stop when the draft ends. You guys know that. There's what happens after June 1st, and there's other things. I think you're always looking to fill the cupboard with good people and good players.
You've seen a few of these rookies in person. What's your evaluation of the quarterback draft class?
I think it's good. I haven't done a lot of the top guys. I've seen a couple of the guys throw. Saw Howard throw at Ohio State. Dart throw at Ole Miss. They did really, really well. But I will say this, the thing that I love is when you're evaluating a quarterback, you got to go to the film. When we had the first pick in the draft in 2004, and we were going through the process to figure out whether we were going to take Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, who else was in that? Roethlisberger, I think. We did all the private workouts and everything. And I asked Phillip Rivers after we drafted him, I said, hey, how'd you do at your pro day? He goes, dude, I killed it. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, I could have thrown that workout with my eyes shut. He goes, like, it's so well rehearsed, which it should be, right? But it's so well rehearsed when you go in there for a pro day, they know I'm throwing a hitch to the right to this guy, throwing a hitch to John, okay? Hey, I'm throwing a slant over here. I'm gonna fake left, go right, throw a back shoulder. I mean, like, they could do it in their sleep. So again, I think with quarterbacks specifically, it's more about the game film and then the makeup, the type of leader that they are.
I'm not necessarily a quarterback. When do you get out being at those pro day workouts?
Be around the guys, be around them, talk to them, get to know them, dig in on, what they're about, Are they going to be good teammates? Do they fit in our locker room? Are they the type of guys that we want to lean on and be around when we're winning or when we're going through a tough stretch? And that's why the culture. Are they a culture fit? And so that to me is more important than the actual workout itself.
Brian, you said that Michael should be around in the offseason. How important is that for him to grow as a leader with the rest of the room? Obviously, you've lost some guys on defensive free agency. That he is there to work with those guys in the spring.
Yeah, well, I think more importantly, that's what Mike has talked about. Mike is excited about the opportunity to step up in a leadership role, and there's no reason he shouldn't. I've always the best teams I've ever been around, their best players are their best leaders, and so again, I think the more you're around, the more you have a chance to influence the guys, and not just the guys that are back, but there's a bunch of new faces, right? We've added, the free agency group. We're going to add some guys in the draft, so that's part of the puzzle. But I know he's excited about that, and again, like I said earlier, I think that's one of the reasons why he will be around.
What's your understanding will be a little more engaged in the off-season program? I mean, I know he was doing stuff on his own, but more engaged with you guys this year with the new coordinator than he was last year.
Yeah, that's my understanding. All these guys have people that they work with. And again, the way the league's set up now, you have to have those because when you leave, when the season's over, right, we don't see them for a while. And so with all those guys, they have people. But at the end of the day, we expect them to be around.
But the 12th overall pick, what are you looking to get with the 12th overall pick and the type of player you're looking to get? And is there a position based on value you stay away from with that high of a pick in the first round?
Yeah, again, the starting point would be best player available. You're always looking for game changers when you're picking 12th. Like, we don't want to ever pick 12th again, right? Let's be honest. We don't want to pick that high. But you're looking for guys that influence the game. How do you influence the game? You rush the quarterback and you get sacks, strip sacks, fumbles, whatever it is. You score touchdowns, okay? So those are usually, I look at it this way, you build it from the outside in. So you got corners, receivers, they get isolated one-on-one. Pass rushers, tackles, they get isolated one-on-one. And then obviously the quarterback position. But usually that's the way I've looked at it, is when you're building a roster, kind of think of it from building it from outside in based on guys that get isolated a lot. Because when you're isolated and you can't help, it's a pretty daunting task sometimes.
How does the special running back fit into that scenario?
Yeah, again, there's been a number of guys that can change the game. I think what's been proven over the course of the last 8-10 years is the depth and the ability to find backs late, make it to where it's not a priority, but we're going to look at best player available. And if the best player is a running back and we feel like that's a great fit, we should do it. But if it's not, again, that's where I feel really good going into this draft, because we've made the moves to create the fact going into this draft that we trust the process. The scouts have done a hell of a job setting the board. We're going to get in there in a room with Steven, Jerry, Will, myself, hear the discussions, kind of get the board set, get it finalized, and then some of it's good fortune, and some of it's just kind of tracking it and knowing that no matter how it plays out, there's going to be a player there that's going to help us win a championship.
Losing Jordan Lewis and Trayvon Diggs' help, are you guys still in need of another impact player at corner going into the?
Yeah, again, same question or same thought, right? You can't have enough of those guys. But I do think we're really excited about Kaiir Elam. Here's a guy that's got really, I think, another first-round talent, got incredible feet, the ability to cover. But we're always looking to add. Those positions of need, you're always looking to add. Why? Because they're going to get into those situations where they're in one-on-one situations. They're having to go when the game's on the line and cover a guy, maybe man-to-man. And so always looking to add those pieces. But again, it's not just the piece, it's the person. That's the biggest thing I'll say. We want the right type of guys, and guys that believe in what we're trying to build, guys that believe in competing every day. And to find those things, it takes a ton of work. And that's why our scouts and our personnel guys, they're the experts. They've been around these guys, half of them for 2-3 years. And that's why when they're talking, man, I am all ears. And then we complement that with our thoughts of how the scheme's going to be built. But like we talked about before, I think at the opening press conference, your scheme, if it doesn't have the flexibility to fit into what your players do well, then you're not a very good football coach, in my opinion.
How involved will you be in each of the 30 visits? Will you always be the last guy to talk after they go through everybody, or how have you structured that, and what will your role be?
I will always have quite a bit of time with the guys. I won't be doing the football stuff. I'll be doing more of the, hey, let's sit down and talk. Let's kind of just man-to-man visit. Let's talk about life. Let's talk about what interests you. It is hard because there's a lot of moving parts. These guys are coming in from all over the place, and so again, it's not always at the end. It's not always at the beginning, but it is a good sum of time where I can get to know them. They can get to know me, because again, if you select them, they're becoming part of your family, and no different than if someone's courting my daughter, it's hey, I'm going to get to know that person before I would ever invite them into my family. She's not getting engaged or anything like that. No, she's still young. No, yeah. Honey, sorry, man, wherever you are, her boyfriend. But, if you look at it like a family, you better get to know the people that you're adding to your family.
Any plans early on about joint practices or anything in the preseason that y'all are eyeing, or is it too early in the game?
Yeah, we're looking through the preseason schedule, things like that. There's a few things. Obviously, the Rams are close by. But you got to get the preseason stuff organized. But I do think there's a lot of value in that. Why? The players like it, number one. It does take the wear and tear off your players a little bit, just because it's you're going against a different opponent. And really the biggest benefit of it is you try to find teams that are different than the scheme that you have. And so, for example, why the Rams make sense, it's because of the fact their defense is going to look different than our defense. And so you get value in that. And but again, once we finalize everything in the preseason, it'll all come into play.
How much of the stuff, McCarthy, are you going to keep the stay day or regeneration day or anything like that? Or how much of that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Again, like I've talked about, there'll be some changes for sure. Mike did some great things. We will adjust some things with the way we practice. I think our stay day was really good. The players did like it. Again, it's taking care of their bodies, which is really what matters. You got to get these guys out on the field and playing. But again, I look at things this way. You never want to just go, hey, we're going to rinse and repeat this. Let's just do it. Let's just do it again. Let's make it ours. Let's get Eberflus's thoughts and Clayton's thoughts. Talking to the players. That's one of the reasons when I'm talking to the players, walking the building, right? It's hey, what did you like about this? What did you like about that? They're not making the decisions. At the end of the day, I'm making the decisions with Steven and Jerry. And but at the end of the day, it's you have all this information, and that's the benefit of being a first-time head coach in an organization where you know the people. You can figure things out.
How much you want to tie into the past of this team? How much you want to tie into the past of the Cowboys? Bring former players around, or have them around, or have them come talk to guys?
Yeah, again, I want to be an open door for those guys, man. You talk about the history and tradition of this franchise and this organization. I was very fortunate growing up in Kansas City. It was always understood that, hey, we want you guys around. We want you guys in the building. So, and do they have to come and feel like when they're there, they have to come and talk to the team? No, just be around the team. Just tell them the stories about the great teams from the 90s. And I want our players to understand, the guys that played early on, man, and the sacrifices they made are a lot of the reasons why we're sitting here in this incredible resort having these conversations. It's because of their sacrifices. And I think our players can understand. And hell, half these guys have gone on to have incredible success outside of football. So why wouldn't you want a guy like Tyrone Crawford coming back and talking to your team about his success away from football? Like, to me, that's going to happen. And I want it to happen. I'm a big believer in that because, again, these guys have paved the way for our current players.
What's it been like working with Jerry Jones? And has there been, in your time with the Cowboys, a story that maybe stands out that was kind of unique because it's something that Jerry did?
I told you guys in the press conference, I have been in this game my entire life. Jerry's knowledge and understanding of football and his quest and want to win is unlike anybody I've ever been around. And so the conversations, the communication between he and I and Steven and Charlotte and Jerry Jr. has been incredible. I really do love the guy. He's been incredible to me. I think just anything we've asked or talked about, the give and take, who wouldn't want to get advice from a guy that's seen so much and done so many great things? One story, John, did get a chance to go on the boat the other night, and that was pretty cool. I'll leave it at that.
With Brock Hoffman, is there confidence that he could be a 17-game starter at right?
With Brock, I would never bet against Brock Hoffman. Brock Hoffman, man, he's if I was in a back room of a bar and had to get out, the way he's wired, man, he would be one of the first guys I want with me. So absolutely, he's just wired the right way. The flexibility, being able to play center and guard, of course, is the puzzle we have to fit together. Yeah, Brock Hoffman, the intensity and the way he plays the game is hard to find.
Plan to keep BB a center.
Right now, yeah, right now.
Do you still want competition in the interior?
Always. If we're not creating competition, then I'm not doing my job. And the players need to understand that. Like, if you want to, there's no jobs being given out. Obviously we know Dak's a starter, but if we're not trying to bring people in or we're not trying to get Will Greer to push Dak Prescott, then we're not doing our job. And you can't sit there and say, hey, our theme of this program is compete every day. And then you're like, okay, you're this, you're that, you're this. So it's our job to figure that out.
Why is Mingo not been able to get on track?
Mingo?
Yeah.
I can't speak to Carolina, our situation. We're really excited about the traits. But at the end of the day, when you look at Mingo, you can't evaluate him based on last year. You come in late like that, it's really, really hard. But here's a guy with a lot of talent. He's back right now training and lifting. I think he's going to do a hell of a job. All right, appreciate you.